Welcome to Sports Betting 101. This is our new podcast here on WMAYs. We're going to get you through some of the terms that we have as far as sports betting goes. And so you kind of feel like you're back in the game. And Joe Boozell is with us from PlayIllinois. And Joe, listen, thanks for joining us. And the one thing I love about sports betting is it's not just for high rollers the way Illinois is doing it. You can bet like a penny or a nickel or a dime. That's kind of cool.
It's nice. Really anyone can do it. And it's, as long as you're responsible with what that you can afford to lose necessarily, you may win, you may lose, but it really is something for everyone. And it's hard to win over the long term, but as long as you're responsible with whatever it is that you can afford, it's a great way to pass the time, especially during these COVID times with not much else going on.
Yeah, true. And you do have to be 21 or older. And I think one of the keys to it, at least for my success, I've been pretty good at this and looking at the free bets and the free money and things like that and getting the deals from the various places, because there are like 4 or 5 different casinos that are offering this online gaming, and they're pretty competitive.
That's right. Yeah, there's 5 sports books in Illinois right now. I'd say DraftKings is a huge one here, FanDuel, BetRivers, et cetera. And it's really generous to people who sign up new. You can actually head over to PlayIllinois.com to see a lot of the offers. I know DraftKings has a really good one in particular. But yeah, it's a good way to learn what you're doing without much of a risk. Obviously, once that honeymoon phase is over, then the books will still offer deals, but they're not as generous as when you sign up. But honestly, all 5 of them that are here, it's worth signing up if you're at all interested in this, because at least your first round of bets, there's really no risk. That could come later on, in which you need to be smart and responsible, but strongly encourage everyone to sign up if you're interested.
Yep, exactly. Discretionary income only. That's how you should bet it.
We're big on that, yeah.
Well, let's go back and get to some of the terms that people may or may not be familiar with, and let's get started with the line. What exactly is the line?
Sure. So I'll use the Bears versus Packers Sunday night game, for instance. Right now, the line is Packers -9. And what that means is the Packers need to win by at least 10 points in order for you to win your bet, or in order for them to quote unquote cover. The Bears, if they lose by less than 9 points, they will still win the bet because they are +9. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way that I can explain it. If the line, so let's say the Packers win by exactly 9, then it would be a push, in which case neither side wins and the bet is void. But basically it's just, if you see -9, minus actually means the team is favored, where plus means the team is an underdog.
Now, if the bet is voided, do you still get your money back, your original bet?
You get in most cases you get your original, whatever you put down on it back. It's just like the bet didn't even happen.
Gotcha. Now, what exactly does the plus and minus mean? Because like when you see that, you'll see like the Packers and it'll say -9.0, and then underneath it says -110. What does that mean?
Sure. So -110, let's use that as an example. That means that you'd have to bet $110 to win 100. And then that ratio just kind of goes all over the place. Or I think it'd be bet $11 to win $10. -110 is -110 or +110 is very standard, usually -110. That's honestly, or a big part of that is so the books can make money, because, let's say it goes 50-50 in terms of somebody winning or losing, or the book winning or losing, even though they're probably a little bit better than that. That sort of little extra incentive gives books, helps them operate, helps them stay in business. But yeah, so if it's a -110, that means you need to bet $11 to win 10, and then that can sort of vary. And if it's a plus, then it means the team is an underdog. But -110 is probably the most common one you'll see.
The next thing you see is the over and under, and it's always a higher number, something like that. What exactly is the over and under of what?
Sure. So I'll use the Bears-Packers game as an example. I actually don't know what the over-under is for that this week. Let's just say it's 45. So what that means is that the Bears, it's going off of the combined score of the two teams. So let's say the final score is 30-23 Packers, and that would be, I'm not a mathematician here, I think that'd be 53 points. And if the line was at 45 points, that means the over would hit, because those two teams just need to score over 45 points in order for it to win. However, if you're a Bears fan, you're probably used to betting unders, if you know what that is, because they usually, don't score a whole lot of points. And so if the game was 20-17, therefore that would be 37 points. If the line was 45, that under would hit. And I guess the way, if you're betting on a game on an over under, you kind of look at the offenses, the defenses on both sides. Yeah, it's obviously a different thing than betting which team you think is going to win. It's more about game flow. It's more about just if you're rooting for points or don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game in any sport. It'd be football, basketball, baseball, etc.
Joe, what about the money line? I see that there, and there's usually the only one number by it. It says like maybe plus 230 or minus 310, or I've seen as high as plus 10,000. What exactly is the money line?
Yeah, so that is just the team who is going to win. Yeah, the team who is going to win the game. And for a big underdog like the Bears this week, I don't know what their money line is exactly, or I think you just said on our segment, it's 370 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 370.
Yeah, so if it's plus 370, that means the team is a pretty big underdog. Actually, I'd say like plus 120, plus 110 is more standard. But what that would mean, it's kind of the same logic we used before. So if it's a plus, it would mean that you bet $100 in this case to win $370, which sounds great. But obviously, the reason is because the Bears are pretty unlikely to win this Sunday. So it'll just be, it's going to correlate based on how likely something is to happen. In the eyes of the odds makers, the less likely something is to happen, the higher the payout you can get on something like a money line. However, it's more unlikely to happen. So you got to pick your spots there. And if you see something that you think is pretty likely, or you think has a good chance to happen, but those odds are pretty high, then that might be something you want to play.
Now, in future podcasts here, we're going to be picking Joe's brain about parlays and prop bets and all sorts of other ways that you can gamble on sports. But in the meantime, Joe, I'm looking for your best bet of the week. What do you think is going to be the one that's going to pay out for you this week?
Yeah, so I'm actually going Broncos +6 this week against the Saints. Taysom Hill kind of balled out in his first game, and a lot of people were skeptical, and a lot of people are eating crow because he played so well in his first game. But I would caution people, it's against the Falcons. The Broncos are not a very good team, but they do have a very good defense. And if you're a Bears fan, you're familiar with Vic Fangio. He is the Broncos head coach now, and the Broncos still have a good defense, even if Drew Lock's not a great quarterback and they don't have a ton of talent. I like that they're at home, and 6 for novice bettors out there. It may not sound like a lot, but that's actually a pretty big spread. That's anything above 7 is it means you're a sizable underdog if you are under 7 or over 7 points, excuse me. The Broncos are 6-point underdogs at home. I think they're not as good as the Saints, but I think I could see them losing only by a field goal or even winning by a field goal here.
Terrific. Joe, listen, thanks so much for your time. And again, PlayIllinois.com is where you can find Joe's articles and learn more about betting and the insights of that. And like I said, this podcast will continue next week with talking about parlays, and we'll just keep going into the betting terms and give you a chance to really have some fun betting on sports here in Illinois. Joe, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.